All right, welcome everyone to the Dulye Leadership Experience Workshop, How to Find and Succeed in the Right Job. Please note that this program is being recorded and will be available for subsequent viewing on the DLE YouTube channel. Please keep your microphones muted during the presentation. My name is Dan Zabata. I am a member of the DLE Programming Committee and Business Development Committee. I'm based in the Berkshires, where I work as a fire control systems configuration management lead at General Dynamics Mission Systems. I will be moderating today's workshop along with my fellow programming committee member, Kirsten Westerman. Kirsten is an office operations coordinator at Little Diversified Architectural Consulting in Raleigh, North Carolina. To maximize everyone's learning experience, we have some core DLE ground rules. Please use the chat box for your comments and questions that are topic related. Kirsten will be monitoring the chat and will surface your comments or questions to myself or our guest speaker, Beverly Williams, during the program. Let's get some practice with the chat right now. Please take a few seconds to type in your name, your title, and organization or company, and where you're located. Thank you. It's great to see the diversity amongst our participants, and welcome to newcomers to the DLE. Moving on with a few more ground rules. Do your best to minimize distractions and stay focused. Make sure to have a pen and notepad handy so that you are able to take notes and actively participate. You'll have an opportunity to ask questions to Beverly after her presentation. Please put any questions in the chat throughout the workshop and we can field them at the end. Finally, please take a few minutes to provide your comments to the workshop feedback poll that you will receive a link to at the conclusion of today's program. In appreciation for your feedback, we'll send you a personal marketing plan created exclusively by Beverly for this workshop. Kirsten?
Thanks, Dan. A reminder to those of you just logging in, please type your name, title, company, organization, and your location into the chat box if you've not already done so. Again, I'm Kirsten Westerman, and I'm the member of the DLE Programming Committee, and I'm an Office Operations Coordinator at Little Diversified Architectural Consulting, and I'm based in Raleigh, North Carolina. Before I introduce Beverly, let's take a pulse of this group when it comes to career transitions. We have a few poll questions that we'd like everyone to take. Here's the first question. Kaylee, if you could throw that up. Have you made a career change this year? Thanks to those of you who responded. It looks like 89% said no and only 11% said yes. So a follow-up question, if you did say yes, was it within your current company or did you take a job somewhere else? And those who changed, it looks like somewhere else. So thank you guys for answering those questions. Now on to welcoming Beverly. So engaging, energetic workshop speaker Beverly Williams is a former HR executive, multifaceted labor and employment attorney, arbitrator, and author of the recently published Your GPS to Employment Success. Her work keeps her closely connected to employment and career trends, which guides her in another one of her roles as a career advisor to clients of all ages. Beverly has lectured at Johns Hopkins and Rutgers University and conducted employment skills workshops and seminars for Fortune 500 companies and government organizations. She was associated with Epstein Becker Green, PC, and the firm's New York City and New York, New Jersey offices, where she served as an employment law guest anchor on Court TV. A New Jersey native, Beverly received her Juris Doctor from Rutgers School of Law, New York, New Jersey, where she was an editor of the Rutgers Law Review. She also received a Master of Public Administration from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill as a Ford Foundation Fellowship recipient and attended Douglas College, Rutgers University, where she received a BA in Political Science. Beverly is also the author of Get the Job Done and has served on the faculty of the Dulye Leadership Experience Annual Retreat. Welcome, Beverly, and we're so excited for your presentation today.
Thank you so much, Kirsten, and thank you to the Dulye Leadership Experience team and its extraordinary and dynamic leader, Linda Dulye. Our topic today, how to find and succeed in the right job. Finding and succeeding in the right job is a challenge because there's so many moving pieces. But brevity, for the sake of brevity, and given the time constraints, I'm going to focus on 4 topics. Assessing your situation, mastering all forms of networking, remaining positive during your search, whether for employment or a promotional opportunity, and positioning yourself to soar, assessing your situation. Now, do you have a plan? Now, it's better to have and not need than to need and not have. Even if you're an organized person, it helps to have a plan that you can refer to make sure that you're covering all the necessary bases. You want to have a career plan. What are your career goals? What are your aims and objectives? One of the things that you need to consider in addition to goals and objectives is a self-assessment. Who are you? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Are your strengths and your weaknesses what you think they are and what other people think they are? If there's a disconnect between those two things, there's work for you to do. You also want to find out whether you're self-aware. Do you know how other people perceive you? How do you perceive yourself? Personally, I have not always been self-aware. I didn't realize that my directness was sometimes hurtful to people. It wasn't my intention, but you've heard, Jack Nicholson, you can't handle the truth. Everybody doesn't want the truth. There are times when people don't want to hear cold, hard facts. So I had to dial that back. But anyone who knows me knows that if I'm silent, I'm usually thinking something, and they will ask, Beverly, don't you have something to say? And if they ask you, you still want to temper it with thoughtfulness and kindness, but you want to tell them the truth because it's important that you give an honest input. Needs analysis. Your needs are as important as an employer's needs, but both have to be considered. What do you need from an employer? Do you need to be loved? If you need to be loved, you have to find a job that will give you that. And let me just tell you, they're few and far between. Do you need to feel that you're needed and appreciated? Is that important to you? If it's not, then if you go to an employer where that's not frontline delivery, then you'll be okay. If you're not, don't go to one of those employers. What about employers' needs? They need someone reliable, punctual, hardworking. If you're none of these things, then you need to reassess yourself and see if you can improve. In fact, if you don't improve, you may not be very successful, but you may not be aware that you are not who you think you are. And that's why the self-assessment is so very important. And let me just say this to you. Try to prepare yourself for feedback that you may not believe is positive, but it is constructive. If you ask people who you believe to be either friends or reliable and people of integrity, I would suggest to you that you strongly consider the feedback they're giving you and see if you can work to correct any deficiencies and make any improvements, because we all are a work in progress. Short-term goals. What are your short-term goals? Where do you want to see yourself next year? Where do you want to see yourself in 2 years? What do you have to do to achieve short-term goals? Maybe there's a training program that you can enroll in where you'll get a certificate, and that will make you more marketable. It will make you more marketable to external employers. It may make you more appealing and more promotable where you are. But those are things that you have to research and make a determination about. Long-term goals. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? Do you need another degree? You may not. But if If you do, are you prepared to take steps to move in that direction? So you should have a plan, a career plan. It takes work. Are you willing to devote the time and the effort to creating a career plan that will hopefully address your short-term and long-term goals, and will be a roadmap for moving forward on your employment journey. Next slide. Once you have a plan, how do you move forward? Strategic plans are very helpful because you can check off what you've done in the effort to move forward. Strategic plan, resume, cover letter, networking. What else do I have to do? We're going to get to networking again further into the presentation. You will write down, type, however you want to record it, the steps that you're going to take on a daily basis. That's how you move forward. Now, suppose during the course of this moving forward, you've made some missteps, because we all do. Suppose you met someone even before COVID or during COVID. You might have met them online and you don't remember them. And you see them again, you meet them again in another chat room, in another Zoom meeting, and they recognize you and greet you gleefully, and you don't remember them from Adam. And you can tell that they're taken aback and they're hurt. After the meeting is over, assuming that you have had the presence of mind to get their name, you send them an email, you get in touch with them and let them know, I'm so sorry. I didn't recognize you. Everybody I've met had masks on. I've had personal issues, whatever the reason is. Ask them if they'd like to meet you for coffee. You'd love to catch up. Whatever correction needs to be made because there's been a mistake or a misstep, you should make it. You need to correct the narrative. You need to have a transition plan. Do you go? Do you stay? Factors to consider. First and foremost, at least in my opinion, do you have the financial wherewithal to leave your job, especially if you don't have one to go to? If you have funds, how long will your funds last? If your funds will last 6 months, maybe that's enough. If you have a family, maybe it's not enough. Financial ability, financial resources are critical. The other thing is, why do you want to leave? Do you like the people you work with? Do you like the place, the physical location where you work? Do you like your supervisor? Do you feel appreciated? Is that important to you? These are all factors to consider. If at the end of this exercise, you decide, I can't stay here anymore, I've had enough. If you decide to leave, don't burn bridges, don't leave a trail of negative feelings. Remember the importance of leaving on a positive note. And if you do that, you will add value, and the former employer may want to rehire you. And let me give you an example. When I finished graduate school, I had got a job working for an entity, and I liked it well enough, but I knew they were paying me less than they were paying men, because when I got hired, they said, the guy who hired me said, you don't need a lot of money because you're not married and you don't have children. So I took the job anyway because I needed a job. When I left, I wanted to tell him what I thought of him, and I had planned to, in no uncertain terms. And someone came to me and said, I know what you're thinking about doing, don't do it. You don't burn bridges behind you. Now, let me just tell you, for some reason, I listened, which was unusual for me at that stage in my life. I'm glad I listened, because the guy I was going to give a piece of my mind to got another job about 6 years later. And when I called to congratulate him on his new role, he offered me a job that changed the entire trajectory of my life. So that's the story I wanted to make sure that I conveyed to you. And I don't know how I can impress upon you how important networking is. I honestly believe that it's the GPS to employment success. And as important as social media platforms, especially like LinkedIn, are important in a job search, please, please don't forget the human factor. Live in-person interaction when we're able again to do so, critical. You want to impress people with your demeanor, your body language, your facial expressions, just how impactful your presence can be. You want to give the impression that you're a professional in thought, word, and appearance. All that comes across in person. Zoom, I mean, for all you know, I have on shorts. It's just not the same thing. So don't forget the human factor, but LinkedIn and Facebook are important. I think LinkedIn is most important. In fact, Linda was telling a story about one of the participants on this webinar reached out to her on LinkedIn because they both graduated from Syracuse and they had the connection of communication. And of course, Linda being Linda said, of course, I'll talk to you, let me know when and where. That's what you do. Proactively search out people who, for whatever reason, whether it's where they work, their role at where they work, where they went to school, whether they graduated or not, all these things that are present on a LinkedIn page, those are the things you look for. And just reach out to people. People have reached out to me and I do what I can. You always want to expand your network. When I started out, there really wasn't social media, but as I became an attorney, social media became more prevalent. And I'm just sorry, I didn't join clubs. I didn't network the way I should have. And I regret it. I have an expansive network, but it could be much, much, much more expansive had I done that sooner in my career. So, and you have to be proactive. Set goals. This can be part of your strategic plan. Say, I'm going to get in touch with, I'm going to reach out to 3 new people every week. I'm going to reconnect with 3 people I already know every week. That's 6 people. And do that every week and expand your network. You'd be surprised how much more information you will get, how much that connectivity will mean a great deal to you. And you wanna be prepared. The Boy Scout motto, be prepared. Your resume, your cover letter, your marketing speech, also known as an elevator speech, all that, you should have that nailed. You have to be ready always because you don't know when opportunity may reel its head and say, come, I've got something for you. You don't want to have to spend 2 days trying to get a resume together and another day to get something else together, like a cover letter or a reply to a text. You need to be ready. You need to have it in a folder on your computer. You need a hard copy just in case you run into someone. They should be in your car. You need to be able to present yourself as, I'm ready, here. This is what I have. This is what I do. This is who I am. You also want to master the social graces. If you don't know which fork to use, when, no harm, no foul. The harm comes if you don't find out. You need to know. You don't know when you're going to be invited to dinner. You don't know when you're going to be invited to lunch. And you want to know what to do in any given circumstance. And ignorance of the rules is no excuse. You have to know what to do and when to do it, whether it's at a meal, whether it's in a business meeting, whether it's at a conference. You need to know what the rules of engagement are at all times. And like I said, it's no harm if you don't know, but you need to find out. The internet has a wealth of information. I love it. You don't have to go to the library anymore. It's too simple. If I'm too lazy to get up and go to my iPad or my computer, my phone, I just Google. As my godmother would say, godmother, go to the Google. I go to the Google. Okay, now, in the time of COVID, when I wrote my book, the second book, I didn't realize what we were confronted with. But fortunately, I was able to incorporate virtual networking because LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, critical. Let me say something about podcasts. I have a podcast. It's called Your Employment Matters with Beverly Williams. The people I've interviewed it's just an eclectic group of people, some of whom I know, some of whom I don't know. I know them at least well enough to interview those who I don't know. So if you listen to the podcast and you hear from someone that you think you might want to connect with, let me know. And well, no, first you try to get in touch with them through LinkedIn or Facebook. Let's see what your skills are like, your networking skills are like. If you're unable to connect with them, reach out to me and I'll make the connection. I mean, I'm shocked. Some of these people I've known for years. And when I interviewed them, I'm like, I didn't know that. Really? It's just a wealth of information. In fact, last week, I dropped a podcast interview from on a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist who's now the dean of the School of Journalism at Temple. We have a mutual friend, and my mutual friend dogged him, literally just browbeat him into making time to allow me to interview him. It took me a year, but he was very gracious. He's a busy man. So I was very pleased, and I personally enjoyed the interview because I learned so much. Telephone and text, that's a given. Emails, make sure your emails convey the message you intend it to convey, which means read the email out loud before you hit send. You want to come across as professional, approachable, likable, and intelligent. And I had to think about these things when I do, because especially when I was working in the corporation, I would just send out emails. This is what I need, and this is what I needed. And I would just move on. That wasn't well received by everyone. There were people who were taken aback because, some people need warm and fuzzy. I'm not one who needs warm and fuzzy, but you should be mindful that there are some that do. And when you're looking for a job, you want to convey yourself as a person who people would like to work with. Now, networking should be a two-way street. It should, first of all, be continuous and often. Like I said, every week you should be making at least 1 or 2 new contacts. But when you connect with people, you want to create a win-win situation. You don't want people to think, oh my goodness, they need something from me. Here he goes again, where he's calling me again. He must need a job. He must not have a job again. You don't want that kind of a thought going through anyone's head about you. You want to create win-win situations. So first of all, it needs to be continuous. You need to keep up and keep in touch with people. You don't have to call them every week. You don't have to call them every month, but you should keep in touch with them every few months. Send them an email. How are you? What's up? How's your family? Just giving the impression that you care. The other thing is, if you can create a situation where you can do something for them, what can you do for the person that you're asking if they can help you by giving you a contact or making a referral or giving you a recommendation? What can you do for them? Do they need technical advice for their computers? How can you be of service to them? And remember, always send a thank you card or an email to anyone who has done you a kindness or given you any of their time. I saw a PBS special, a documentary, and the 3 creative industry executives were being interviewed. I don't remember it. They weren't theater people, but I remember thinking they were creatives. And they were executives making hiring decisions. And one of the executives said, if I don't get a thank you within 24 hours, I don't care how good the person's interview was, I won't hire them. They go no further. Now that shocked me. I'd never heard that before. And whether it's true or not, whether it's pervasive or not, can you afford to take the chance? So the answer to the question is no, you can't. Send the thank you email or e-card. Next, another PBS documentary. SOAR was the name of the documentary, and it was about 2 sisters, one of whom was a quadriplegic, and they were dancers. Yes, the quadriplegic sister also danced. And I sat there mesmerized, watching these sisters, just grace personified. And I felt diminished in some way. And if you know me, you know that's not a feeling that I'm used to. It's not an emotion that I can ever remember having. But I knew I couldn't do what they did. I would not be able to do what they did, especially the disabled sister. And when I thought of SOAR, I thought of them and rising above, and how can I create something that would make a difference? And this is what I came up with. S stands for sharing your skills and knowledge. Whatever information you have, whether you think it's valuable or not, share it with someone else. For all you know, there's a void in their learning. Share your skills, share your knowledge, and readily, share it readily, and as a friend of mine would say, gleefully. You want to seek knowledge, seek information rather than affirmation. You want to acquire information, look for it. Don't make it come to you or wait for it to come to you. Go out and pursue it. You pursue information rather than have somebody say you're wonderful, you're beautiful, you're this, you're that. Go out in hunt of information. You want to engage in operating throughout your life and your career with integrity and dignity. That should be part of your personal brand, that you're a person who is trustworthy, who you can trust to tell the truth, who can be relied on to do what he or she says they're going to do, and conduct yourself with professionalism and dignity. Opening your mind to change, new ideas and new people, and keeping it open is another O. There's so much change going on around us, some good, some bad. We need to be able to deal with it. We have to be resilient. Acquiring is the A, acquiring information and knowledge. As I said before, go out and seek it. Once you seek it, get it, and then pass it on. Keep it, but pass it on. And this is very important. As a professional with a career and perhaps responsibility for supervising other people, assume responsibility for your career and your development. A lot of people, what do they call it? One of my former bosses used to say, oh, they do the Olay. They take the cape and they say, not me, him. You want to assume responsibility for your career, your mistakes, your accolades, your development. Don't wait to be anointed. Anoint yourself by acquiring more marketable skills and training, by treating people well, which we get to the R, respect the rights of others. My father used to tell me that when I was a child, and that's an homage to him. And remember your loved ones. Remember your loved ones, the people you care about, the people who have supported you and nurtured you and your career, who have been your role models. Remember them as you move along your employment journey, whether it's laterally, with a trajectory, however you move forward. Keep in your memory banks the people who've helped you. Never forget them. And remember this, nothing, absolutely nothing is more expensive than a missed opportunity. You have to be able to recognize an opportunity and trust and believe that's not always easy. Sometimes opportunities will be presented offer, say, can you give me some time to think about it? And then go and talk to people if you're not sure, because that opportunity may not present itself again. And you want to be the one to have the choice to say, I didn't miss that opportunity and I'm glad I didn't.
Thank you so much, Beverly. That was really great. And so we're going to move quickly into questions. We received a lot of advanced questions during the registration. So I'm just going to jump right in. The first one is, how do you know yourself enough to know what is the right job fit?
See, if you don't know yourself, then that's the first order of business. You can go online. There's some free self-assessments that will help you determine what skill set is suited, what you're good at, what jobs might be suitable to you. The other thing is, how do you feel about the job you have? Do you get a pit in your stomach when you have to go to work in the morning? Do you not like the people you work with? Or when you get to work, do you just feel like you'd rather be someplace else? I mean, even when I've been in jobs that I haven't been great, I can't say I haven't liked a great deal. I've had jobs, all kinds of jobs, blue collar jobs, all kinds of jobs. I always had a good time because I liked the people I worked with, whether it was a factory or a Fortune 500 company. The people were nice. So as I moved along, things changed a lot, but still, you need to know who you are and what it takes to make you, if not happy, at least content.
Okay. So another one is, how do I identify companies or organizations that are the right fit for my experiences or interests?
You do the research. You Google the company, you read as much as you can that's published about the company. the website is one source, but you need to see if there are any journalistic publications that talk about the business that you're considering, whether what the business industry has to say about the company that you're interested in. You need to go deep. Go to Glassdoor, see what Glassdoor has to say about from the people that have worked for the company. Go to LinkedIn and find people who work for the company who are willing to talk to you, and you may even find a mentor there if you develop a strong enough relationship. So, it takes legwork. It's almost like you're a detective. You've got to do the work. You've got to do the legwork or the computer work to find out as much as you can about these companies, because some of them have a facade of being interested in diversity, in equity and inclusion, and they really aren't. When you go, if you visit these companies, you will not see many different people of different nationalities, ethnicities, and races. That's the first sign. But just talk to people and see what they think, and see what's written about them. That's the first step. And LinkedIn is a great source. People will tell you many times how they feel about where they work. But like I said, even if I've worked for challenging companies, I've always had a good time. I've always had friends. I made friends where I worked, and my friends were able, not only did I have a good time, I learned from them, because I always had friends in different departments. And that's another suggestion I would make to you. Make friends with employees in different departments, because different departments have different information, and all information is important.
Awesome. Ronnie, you have your hand up. So I'm going to ask you, go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. Thank you for this insight, Beverly.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you. So just a question about confidence, as well as not sounding too getting ahead of yourself, but how do you find your value, whether it be monetary or the positions that you're placed in, or the amount of power that you hold in an institution or a company? How do you measure that?
First of all, people don't talk about money. Employees don't want other employees to know how much they're making. Companies don't want their employees talking about money. There are laws that says that employees can talk about how much money they make, notwithstanding the fact that their employers may have a policy against it. There are laws that say that you can do that, but people still have not moved in the direction where they disclose what they're making to coworkers. So now how you find out, I would suggest, and this may not work for everyone, but if you have a friend in HR, the HR person may not tell you that so-and-so is making $15,000 and you're only making 10, but an HR person might tell you, well, so-and-so may be making a little more than you. I don't know why, and keep it moving. And then it's up to you to determine whether or not, based on your performance, based on your resume, and what you've brought to the table, and again, how you performed, and how your performance reviews reflect you've performed, not how you think you perform, but how your performance reviews reflect you perform, whether or not it's time to go to your boss to say, you know, I've been here for, say, 3 years, and I need to know what I need to do to move forward. Now, at one point, I worked like a dog, and my annual increase was not what I thought it should be. And I went into my boss's office and I said, I need you to help me understand what else I could have done to get a better increase. And he looked at me. I said, and I went down litany. I mean, I had the metrics, and he knew I was right. And I knew that one of his friends was also a direct report, and I was reasonably sure that he had given him more money than he had given me. He said, okay, I'll take care of it. I was very pleased with how he took care of it. Sometimes you just have to let people know that you're aware, that you know that you add value, but you've got to be correct. Everybody who thinks they're performing well may not be. And if you have not received a performance review that reflects that, then you need to find out why you're not getting it and what you need to do to get the performance review that you believe your performance deserves. You could be right, you may be wrong. Some people, you know, we're not all so as self-aware as we need to be. You need to know. And you need to be able to accept feedback in any form, regardless of what it conveys, because even negative feedback will give you information about the person delivering it. They may have an ulterior motive. They may not be a person of integrity, but you will know. So accept all feedback as a gift. So you have to go get the feedback.
So now I'm just going to hand it off to Kirsten real quick for the questions coming in through the live chat. And if you have any questions while we're going through those, please put them in the chat as well.
Dan, yeah, we had a couple come through. So one person asks in regards to networking, since they're starting off new in their career, when they network, what can they offer for their win-win? They feel like they need more that they can give in terms of career.
Volunteer. You can offer to volunteer. Assuming that you have the time. If you have a family, if you have small children, you may not be able to do that as well as maybe someone who's single, just starting out. But you can offer to give some time and be very specific about how much time you can give and why. You know, I have 2 children. I can't give much time, but I want to volunteer. How can I help? The offer is as important as what you offer. Do you understand? The fact that you're extending yourself is a give. So if you're just starting out, and you know what else? If you find out the CEO's pet charity, volunteer to work on that. And make sure you do a good job. Don't do any of these things and mess up. You do a good job, but you look for the CEO's charity, pet charity. And you find out that by, you know, being friends with the CEO's admin doesn't hurt. You want an eclectic group, an eclectic network at work. You want them in different departments. And it should be people that you genuinely like. You don't want to be inauthentic. These are people you like. Everybody is helpful. You need to have a diverse and eclectic array of contacts. I'm telling you, it serves me well.
There was one more question that came through the chat. When you mentioned looking into companies and if it's a right fit, if you're looking at smaller companies that aren't on Glassdoor or other sites, how can you really go about learning about those companies if they're smaller?
Their people should be on LinkedIn. You might also Google the company to see what comes up. There's been, you know, in the age of the internet, very few get through without something. That it would at least give you a start. You could write to the owner and say that you would like to interview him. And you know what? You tell him that you want to interview him because you may want to pitch the interview for a podcast. And then you can pitch it to me so you won't be lying. You don't want to lie. You always want to be honest and truthful. But that's the way, if you can't find any other way. Because I'm always looking for guests. So you could do that. If it was just a very small or a startup, a very small business, you could do that. And I would, if you thought he was a good guest, I would interview him if he wanted to. He may not be interested in being on a podcast, but you know what I'm saying? That's an option.
Definitely. Dan, I'm going to send it back to you. That was all the chat questions that came through.
All right, thanks, Kirsten. All right, so Beverly, so what do you do when you feel stuck in a job because the pay and benefits are good, but you're unhappy?
Money is the root of all evil. You have a decision to make. What are you unhappy about? That's important. Do you think you should be doing more? Are you unhappy with the work that you're given? Because obviously you're not unhappy with the money you're making. I would go to my boss and ask what else you could do. First, before I did that, I'd do some research and figure out for myself what else I could do at the company. I would create my own additional work and get paid and ask to get paid. It has to be work that's valued. You have to be able to add value. It can't be nice to have, or I'm stringing Cheerios and making a necklace. You have to have something substantive that adds value. Be creative. You know what you've been there long enough. You know what the business does. What do you think it needs? What would add value to that company? And you could do it. And could you do it in addition to what you're doing now? And if you could, how much more money would you want? Because you should get more money. If you're getting paid for doing what you're doing now, if you're going to do more, you should get more money. But you have to create the opportunity. And they may knock it down, but then you will have a decision to make. But if you can make a compelling case, Dan, my money's on you. But it has to be compelling. It has to be something they need and that they see the benefit in. They're not going to do it because they like you.
Okay, so what tools should be used when searching for an executive position?
I thought about that. And I would seriously suggest that people interested in executive positions contact the Service Corps of Retired Executives, SCORE. They will mentor people upon request. and if there's a good fit. I would start there because each business is different. You can also get in touch with executives at companies that you think you might want to work at and you might want to be an executive at. Get in touch with executives there and ask them if you could interview them, because you want to be an executive one day, and see what they say. If you don't ask them, you won't get in. You ask them, they may say yes. And if they say no, just keep asking. If not the same one, another one. You have to be persistent. This job search, I don't care how good they say the economy is, job search takes preparation, persistence, consistent perseverance. You have to keep at it. And you have to be thorough, attention to detail, remembering the social graces. Please and thank you will do a lot for you, because a lot of people don't say it. Oh, and the other thing, please, all of you, please watch The Intern. Has anyone seen it with Anne Hathaway and Robert De Niro? Please watch it. That should be a training film for the industries in this country and elsewhere. A millennial owns a business, a startup business, and Robert De Niro was a retired executive who came to work for her company. And most of the employees are millennials, and they think Robert De Niro is out of touch. And it's not an Academy Award-winning movie, but it's a feel-good movie. And the results are just so compelling. Together, they scheme, together, they resolve issues, and they grow to respect and love each other and admire each other. Everybody brings something to the table, regardless of age, ethnicity, or gender.
That is the last
Yeah.
question. Thank you so much, everyone, for your questions. Beverly, thank you for answering
Thank
those
everyone
questions
for
for us.
listening. I appreciate it.